many things that I wanted to pursue. And this just fell in line with yet another one of the things that I wanted to be on the right side of history for. So I was willing to not only participate or not only sign, but to host my business is a place that you can come sign any day of the week. We've had over 250 people walk through my door to come sign the petition. Here in Canmore, we had a meeting last night. We've got over 2,500 signatures for our little town of 15,000 already. I think that this is an issue that people in my community feel really passionate about, and I was happy to be part of that conversation.
Mayor Yargo, you said that you don't think it is a divisive issue, but I see what's on social media, and the mayor of Coaldale, Jack Van Ryan, recently just announced that he had signed the petition, and people were out on social media saying, well, at least I know who I'm not going to vote for. So there is a divisive part to this campaign. Even though you may not see it in Penhold, there is a divisiveness in there. Some critics may argue that mayors and councillors should stick to their local bread and butter issues. They should stick to the waters, the roads, the services. What's your response to those who say mayors shouldn't get involved in this as a municipal leader and just do it under the radar, just sign the petition and walk away, not do it so openly like you three have?
You know what? As a mayor, I have just as much of a right to free speech as anyone. I didn't sign it, with the town of Penhold logo or anything. I signed it as Mike Yarjo, someone that's incredibly proud to be a Canadian and also incredibly proud to be an Albertan. And I do get that. Yeah, there is some divisiveness about it. There shouldn't be. I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. You don't have to be one or the other. You can love Canada and love Alberta, right? I think as public officials, and Wade kind of touched on this, that we do have a responsibility to make sure we're on the right side of history. And ultimately, I agree with what Wade said. This is the right thing. I'm all for open conversations about Alberta's place in Confederation, but a lot of that has to be based on fact, and we're not seeing that from a number of people on the other side, right? So as responsible leaders, it's our duty to step up and counter that.
Counselor, for yourself, you're in the midst of a municipal election, and you've sort of done this so publicly. Have you gotten backlash in your community, or has anyone around the table gotten any backlash for so publicly endorsing this campaign?
I mean, I got a few Facebook comments from people that don't live anywhere near me. So,
Counselor?
Nothing that I'm overly concerned about. A few people voiced their displeasure that honestly probably would have voiced their displeasure with me anyways. It's fine. The amount of support, I don't see this as a partisan issue or anything like that. We see conservatives, liberals across the board rallying towards a cause. I haven't had significant backlash.
Mayor Herron?
Well, Wade's right. It's not partisan. I mean, Ed Stelmach is endorsed it, but so is Brian Mason. So those are two opposite sides of the aisle, and it's about being Canadian. And I think when you stand up publicly, like the three of us have done, and especially two that are continuing to seek re-election, it allows residents who are in the position to choose to know more about that candidate. You're not going to know if they're, UCP or NDP or Liberal, but you know that they're Canadian. And I think that's a personal and a personality trait that you should be super proud of. And it's a nonpartisan issue, and I think leaders have to stand up for what they believe in. If you're fearful of standing up for what you believe in, you shouldn't be leading.
Go ahead, Wade.
anybody doesn't want to vote for me because I'm a proud Canadian,
Exactly.
that's perfectly okay with me. Bluntly.
But do you not have a responsibility to represent every single person in your community, even those who may disagree with Alberta's stance in Confederation? Because this is the time we are running this campaign in the midst of a municipal election, and you're outdoor knocking. Well, two of you are outdoor knocking, and you're hearing from residents. And there might be some who say, I would vote for you, but your stance on this issue just does not line up with what I believe. As a municipal leader, you are there to represent everyone, not even those who did not vote for you. How would you be able to represent your entire community knowing that people want to leave Canada? Mike, do you want to take that first? Because I'm good.
Yeah.
I think Karen, Mayor Herron, go for it.
I mean, there's 1,000 issues that we, are talking to residents about during campaigns. And this is not a municipal issue. Whether you are supportive or of leaving Canada or wanting to stay in, that doesn't really change how you're going to pick up your garbage and fill your potholes, right? So if I was faced that question at the door, I would say, not everyone will vote for me, but you have to represent everyone, and it's going to be on the issues as each agenda item comes up on your daily work license. That's what you're doing. As Wade said, if you don't want to vote for me for something that's really even not a municipal issue because I'm very passionate about it, then so be it. So be it. It's not.
But isn't that? And I know I'm going to say the calling the kettle black because you've got one foot out the door, so you can openly say that. And I know Wade.
Oh, but I openly was pro-mask and pro-vaccine in 2021.
So do you see a coalition there?
Well, I threw it. It was a divisive issue in that election, and I did not shy away from my stance on those things either. So,
Mayor Yargo, for yourself, for a community that is smaller in size, you know everyone, and you know everyone who knows everyone in your community. How important is it for you to stand up, but also make sure that you listen to the people who may not want to sign this campaign and say, nope, I don't believe Canada should have Alberta should be part of Canada?
Yeah, I'm always open to conversations with people, and I don't back down. People are welcome to their opinions. And I use this. This comes up a lot when people say, well, you represent us, you have to agree with us. When you're elected in any position, for one, you have a duty of responsibility that unelected people don't have, and you have a burden of knowledge. So in our role, we by virtue of what we do, we get more knowledge about municipal subjects, especially, than people. So you know what? We don't have to agree on everything, but I might know something that you don't know, and you're not allowed to know it because you're not in the position that I'm in, right? That might not totally apply to this, but at the end of the day, we don't have to. Just because I'm the mayor of Penhold, people think a lot of different things in Penhold, right? I know I don't agree with. We have some Flames fans, believe it or not, that live in Penhold. I'm still the mayor of Penhold. I'm still the mayor of those Flames fans, right? Even though they're the worst hockey team in Alberta. At the end of the day, none of that matters. I focus on my municipal responsibilities, and I make sure that anyone that has questions about that and about what we're doing in Penhold, my door's open, my number's publicly listed. Anyone can talk to me about that stuff. But we don't have to agree on everything either.
See, there's a part of me as the Calgarian host of this show that wants to sort of defend the Calgary Flames, but if we remove the curtain behind me, you would see a large amount of Anaheim Ducks jerseys behind me. So let's just not go there right now into the NHL because I feel like we could do an hour just on that. Counselor, for yourself, when you're out as an official canvasser speaking to people, are people wanting to line up and basically say, how can I sign up for this? How can I come to your room and get you involved, or come to your office and get involved and sign that petition? Or are people even talking about it? Because there's a high threshold that we have to hit to get this petition on a ballot. Do you think the people of Alberta are ready to do that? Or do you get a sense that people want to sign this petition?
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of enthusiasm that I've seen come to sign this document has been inspiring. It's given me hope that we've got some sanity left in the conversation still, that people are passionate, that they do care deeply about this issue. And one of the things that I find really interesting is that if this petition is successful and there is a referendum question, you can vote no for that. Yeah. If 51% of the people voted no to this question, it is a very different outcome from what we think what we're essentially fighting for right now. I find that an interesting fact, and I'm quite confused as to why people who do want to separate are against this question. So, yeah, people are passionate.
I should mention, just for transparency's sake, if there are municipal councillors out there listening to this or watching this at a later date that would like to come on and talk about why they support Alberta leaving Canada, I would love to have them on the show as well. The door is always open for that conversation, and we'll do it live as well. So I just want to make sure that I do have that little bit of transparency there, that if they do want to come on and do that, they have the open opportunity. Just send us an email or send us a direct message on social media. We are in the midst of an election campaign, and I want to start with the one who is not running for re-election and then head to the person who is running, or the two that are running for election. We've just spoken, I've spoken to many municipal leaders across Alberta who say this election is very much an apathetic election. There's not much going on right now. And I know it's still, I say, in the last stretch of the campaign. I got called out on that on social media by someone on this roundtable discussion right now. But do you get a sense that people are more focused on this Forever Canada campaign than the actual municipal election? And do you think that could hurt municipal turnout on October 20th, Kathy?
Well, municipal turnout's never great anywhere in Alberta. It's unfortunate. The four of us were having that conversation before we got live, and Mike was saying that it's quiet in Penhold. It's not, no one's really talking about it. I have no problem, honestly, with this Forever Canada petition getting the attention that it is, because it's kind of a movement. It's something that I'm happy to see. I'm happy to see the lineups at farmers markets, etc. I'm happy to hear people posting on social media. This is almost the purpose of what Thomas is trying to achieve. It was this kind of overwhelming statement of solidarity, because you hear from other people that there's 30% of Albertans want to leave, and I don't know a single person that wants to leave Alberta or Canada. So I was questioning those numbers for the longest time. So I think what Thomas is doing is just really trying to pull Alberta together in solidarity, to let the rest of Canada. So if there's some young kid in Quebec, like I was in Alberta years ago, hearing these conversations, I want them to know that we're proud Canadians and we want to be part of this country. So I'm okay if it's stealing a little bit of the attention from the municipal election. But don't forget, the municipal election's 6 weeks or so away. It always gears up in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
I apologize, everyone. We just lost one of our guests, and they're just jumping back in via Zoom. So we'll just bear with us for 2 seconds.
And he's sideways.
And he's sideways, so we're just going to get him to flip.
Am I sideways?
There we go.
There you go.
Mayor Yargo, for yourself, when we look at the Forever Canada campaign, are you getting a sense in Penhold that more people are actually engaged in that campaign rather than the campaign that you're running in as a municipal official?
No, I mean, I think in general, people are disengaged from politics, because it's not really a fun place to be involved in right now. So I don't see a ton of engagement around the Forever Canada thing. I do know some people in town who've signed it, obviously, but we're not having huge rallies for it or anything. When it comes to politics, like I say, I think generally people that aren't involved, and that, so, people not counting the four of us, especially, people that aren't involved in politics want nothing to do with it. So that's why they're not talking about it. I've been pointing out that I think Edmonton and Calgary both came out with polls for their mayoral race. And whoever the front runners were is irrelevant to this, but it was about 50% of the people were undecided or didn't know because they're not paying attention. You know, someone is leading a poll with 12%. That's great, but 50% of the people aren't even thinking about it yet. And that's generally what I see when I talk to people. They're just not thinking or talking about politics. Or
Does that concern you?
the silent majority is not involved. Right?
Does that concern you, Mayor?
Well, I think it's a leadership problem. I mean, we don't have good leadership in Canada and Alberta in a lot of ways. We have leadership that turns people off from the process, right? We have a process that is the flaws are getting exposed. And what happens is you get hyper partisans who are ultra engaged, and then you get the silent majority that just decides, you know what, this isn't fun. I don't want to be a part of this. So they walk away.
So why is it now that we need bold leadership when we go into this campaign of Forever Canada or Remove Canada or the Only Alberta side? I'm not sure what they're officially called because they have no official name yet. But Councillor, for yourself, why is it important to have bold municipal leadership? Because some might say that municipal leaders should do what the Premier is doing. Stand back and wait for the results to happen. They should wait for the results to actually transpire, whether that be a petition on a ballot measure on the next campaign, or residents have their voice and they say what they want done. Why is it important to have bold leadership at this time?
Chris, let's be honest. The Premier is standing back and not taking a position.
Thank
You know,
you, Wade. Thank you, Wade.
No, she is doing anything but that, in my opinion. You know, she might state otherwise, but her actions would be very different, in my opinion. We need bold leadership, and you know, it's our town council has had a very tough 4 years. We have taken on a lot of thorny, nasty ones, and I see no reason why I shouldn't get involved with another one. That is leadership, and
Uh-oh.
Oh,
We lost you, Wade.
Wade, we lost your audio. I think you just muted yourself by accident. The perks of doing things live.
I will never use my phone for another Zoom conversation again, especially on live TV. But yeah, we need to be bold. We have to be.
Mayor Herron, you kind of agreed to what Councillor Graham was saying there for a few minutes, but I want to just pick your brain. Do you think it's a lapse in judgment from the Premier's part of not publicly stating that she supports an Alberta within Confederation?
First of all, the comment about bold leadership, I love it, and I'm a fan of the local level, as you all know, and that's where I do see fearless leadership happening. Because we're not partisan, and we can just really be unique to ourselves. When you're in a party politics situation, you have to play a game. And Wade's comments about the Premier not taking a stance, I mean, publicly, and what she says, I would love to see her take a stance. And quite honestly, I believe she wants to stay in Alberta, and I wish she would just say that. But she's got a certain base that she needs to try to placate, and she's got Albertans she's trying to placate. It's a tough job, but I think those of us who've met her and know her and watch her very closely, we can read between the lines, and we know exactly that she is playing a bit of a game with our sovereignty right now, and I just wish she would quit it. I can be very honest. One of the reasons I chose not to run again was because I get frustrated with our provincial government, and it's been happening for years. When I was president of Alberta Municipalities, you bang your head against a wall to try to get heard, and very little respect, and it's disheartening. And Like, I just couldn't do it anymore, especially with the current government. Couldn't do it.
I want to ask this question to Kathy because she's not running for re-election, so she might have a little bit more to say on this compared to the other two that might be determined some financial
Oh,
challenges.
I know Mike pretty well. He doesn't hide anything, and it sounds like
Okay.
Wade wouldn't either. But
So I was speaking to a municipal leader this morning, and they said on the record that they feel as a municipality they're being treated like how Alberta feels that Canada is treating Alberta. So they're
100%,
feeling that they're sending all the money to Edmonton and they're not getting any money in return. And this is why municipalities are standing up and actually saying we need to actually take a stance and we need to actually have some leadership of our own to say, okay, you don't like how Canada's treating Alberta? Well, start treating municipalities a little bit better and maybe we'll be on your side as well. Do you agree with that sentiment that municipalities are being treated like they're just the revenue pigs for Edmonton to do what they want? Wow, I can't speak properly today.
I wouldn't separate Penhold and St. Albert and Canmore from Edmonton and Calgary. I think they have just as many issues and lack of respect from the provincial government as the rest of us do. 100%. And when you've got a government trying to tell you whether or not you can have bike lanes in your community, that's a completely municipal issue, and they're interfering. And I said that very vocally about the photo radar as well. Like it's not. Edmonton and Calgary are not getting special treatment as compared to others. I don't think. I'm a fairly decent sized city, so I've got urban issues, and I can feel empathy towards those two big cities because they do have a lot of costs that the rest of us don't. But it's the whoever you were talking to before has got it exactly right, that if you want to talk about staying in your lane, what level of government what order of government you are in, then it goes both ways. You got to treat municipalities as a duly elected, a democratic order of government.
Mayor Yargo, what do you say to Albertans who say Confederation just doesn't work for them right now? Because you are a strong Canadian, as you said at the beginning of the interview, but we all have our opinions on how Alberta could be treated a little bit fairly because we have oil and gas and that is a major exporter. What would you say to Albertans who say this is the only way that we're going to get recognized from the people in Ottawa for us to actually start doing something here in Alberta? What would you say to them?
Well, anytime I have this conversation, I try to come at it with the basic facts, because oftentimes I find the person I'm talking to isn't basing their argument in facts, and I'll use equalization as an example. Like I'll say, okay, what was the amount of the check the Alberta government sent to the federal government for an equalization payment last year? How big was that check? What was the check number? Find it. Give me a copy of that check. It didn't happen. There is no check. So there's people that honestly think the Alberta government writes a check every year to the government of Canada. And that's how they base that's how they start the discussion, and that's how we start the debate about why we're sending this much money. That doesn't happen. So if you want to have this discussion, I'm all for it. But let's start it with facts. So you just got to. I don't know.
But is it hard to do that though? Because, and I apologize to interject, but I'm just watching the comments roll. I'm watching the comments roll in, and the people are saying, "No, I'm out." There are people who are saying, "No, I want to leave Canada. Like, I want Alberta to be its own separate entity." And there are people chiming in right now saying, "Then, if you don't want to be part of Alberta, then leave." I'm just again reading whatever's on the screen right now. I'm not fact checking who they're coming from. I know you should never read the comments in municipal politics, but there is a sense that people are frustrated with Ottawa. And they're not
Yeah, absolutely.
and you know what? The facts are right. You don't send a check to Ottawa every year. The Nate Horner, I was going to say Doug Horner there. I apologize, Doug. But Nate Horner doesn't send a check to Ottawa to the new finance minister every year. It just doesn't happen. So how do you talk to people civilly, ensuring that your message gets out that we are stronger together at the end of the day?
Yeah, so and I agree. I also have problems with things the federal government does. That's fine. We should have problems. We should question things, right? But at the end of the day, as a country, I mean, I look at I'll give, there's the 51st state people that think, Alberta is going to become the 51st state and we are going to have so much power. We're a province of about 4, maybe 5 million people now. We're going to join a country of 400 million people, and our voice is going to be bigger than it is in a country of 30 million people. Like, come on, there has to be some common sense involved in the discussion, and there has to be some truth in the arguments too. To have problems with Ottawa is 100% fine, and I'll talk about problems with people and solutions and ways we can work to make Confederation better. Of course, we should always be having that discussion, but at the end of the day, we are far better off as a province being in the country of Canada.
Counselor, for yourself, do you get a sense in Canmore that people are frustrated with Ottawa and this is a way to lash out, or this is a way to show that while we do support the Confederation, the story of Confederation going back to 1867, we need to work on how Alberta's place is going to be truly represented in there? Or are people just fed up and saying, no, a Canadian is a Canadian, no matter if you're from Canmore, Penhold, from Medicine Hat, all the way up to St. Albert, or even up to High Level, because we are all part of this Canadian mosaic that we live in.
Yeah, I get the sense that, politics right now isn't a fun place, and people are exhausted with it, right? So whether that's international politics or national politics, provincial or municipal, there's a level of frustration there. And I think people they don't understand it, and they want something different. They don't know how to get what they want to be different, but they want something different. And, I kind of think about the nation as a family, and you're not always going to get along, and you're not always going to understand each other. But the whole, I'm just going to get up and leave. I'm just going to take my piece of cake and leave. The tactic or the strategy that most people think we need to employ to make things better. I think Mike's right. There are flaws and there are issues and there are things that we can address, but we address them as a nation. We address them as mature, responsible adults that can have realistic conversations based in fact and hear and see other perspectives. Because Mike's right, there's not a check that gets written to Canada, but I know that Canmore writes a check to the Alberta government for its education taxes every year, and we do not get an equal payment back. So if we want to have equalization conversations, I'm all for it.
Well done, Wade.
I really want to jump in on that too, and just add also, when we talk about problems in Confederation, and maybe a lot of these Albertans need to be having these conversations with their MPs too. It's no secret what and I say this as a conservative and someone who ran for a conservative nomination. I'm pretty comfortable that I am a conservative. We only elect conservatives in Alberta. Maybe we need to start questioning some of those MPs and asking what they're doing to make things better, because they've been there for an awful long time.
Well, and that brings up into the bigger picture, because I mentioned Danielle Smith in the conversation, but has anyone around this table asked their local MLA or their local MP where they stand on this issue? Because you're taking a bold step in actually announcing that you're supporting this campaign. And yes, it may not be as divisive as many people think, but there are people, and I'm seeing the comments as they roll in, that are detractors who saying, yeah, you're denying equalization payments, so therefore I'm not tuning in anymore. So understandable. That's the great thing about democracy. You get to listen to the people that you want to listen to, and you don't have to listen to everyone, but as a municipal leader, you have to. Has anyone around the table asked their local MLA or their MP if they've signed this campaign? Because they're Albertans too. Pierre Poilievre represents Battle River Crowfoot, and he's a representative. I'm not sure if he lives here, but he represents us, so he should take a stance on this as well. Has anyone had a conversation with any of their local elected officials?
I have.
And what did they
I have
say?
I have two MLAs. I've got both NDP and a UCP MLA. My NDP MLA is very public and pro-Canada and will sign to stay in. But my UCP MLA cannot. He's not allowed. Right?
Well, this question is for the two that are running for re-election here. Leadership sometimes means that you have to take risks. And I think you've mentioned it a little bit or before in the interview, but I want to play in the sandbox just a little bit. If the chips fall the other way on election day, and this is the reason why it cost you elections, can you sleep at night? Counselor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
100%. If they do not elect me because I'm a proud Canadian and not for any of the other reasons, I sleep better than I sleep right now.
I told someone this a couple months ago, and I'll give you the PG version because I swore when I said it, but I don't know what my legacy is going to be in politics at the end of the day. I don't know where my story ends yet, but I do know that I'm not going to be known as a jerk, and I'm not going to be known as a liar. And I'll go to bed every night knowing that stuff. And I didn't use the word jerk. You could probably figure out which word I used. But at the end of the day,
thank you for PGing
I'm
it for
comfortable.
TV there,
I'm comfortable.
Mike.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the person that I am, and I'll have no problem sleeping at night.
Mayor Heron, there might be some who say that municipalities would fare better without their need to be in Canada, and municipalities in Alberta would thrive under an independent Alberta. I'm asking this question as the former president of Alberta Municipalities. What would you say to those who may say municipalities would be so much better if we had an independent Alberta?
I think I would have no hesitation calling. Oh, I was just about to swear.
Again, thank you so much for making
calling a
everything
little bit of B and a little bit of S on that, because as you guys just said, we're 4.5, maybe 5 million in Alberta. If we were part of the United States, we would be lost. If we're actually independent, we're landlocked. For me, a lot of this goes to the economic development of our communities. So we say it's not a municipal issue, but it is in the way, because we want every one of our communities to attract investment, maybe even some foreign direct investment. And if you have uncertainty, which is kind of surrounding us right now, why would anyone want to invest in Alberta right now? And when you invest in Alberta, you're going to get an Amazon warehouse, or you're going to get a dog food store, an ice cream cone, whatever, in our communities. We need that non-residential assessment dollars. So I'm finding this this conversation, as much as I'm enjoying the unity of it all, if you're it's bad for investment, bad for business, and essentially a huge distraction. This is a distraction from what I think the provincial government, other priorities that I think they should be focusing on. We shouldn't really be focusing on books, and we shouldn't be focusing on sovereignty. We should be focusing on getting our resources to broader markets outside of the United States. We should be focusing on building schools, building hospitals, settling a teacher's strike. These are big issues. And so sovereignty is a distraction, in my opinion. And it's a bit of a, I hate to say it, it's kind of MAGA light, because that's what I see President Trump do. He just redirects and he distracts people from things that he's uncomfortable with. And so just do your job and get the teachers to work, build me a hospital, and get our resources to Tidewater. Those are the things that I care about.
It's something that you care about, and we have this election that is coming up in a few weeks. Nomination period closes on September 22nd. I'm not seeing any head nod, but I believe that is the right day.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And election day is on October 20th. Now, there are campaigns, there are lines, there are places where you can sign this petition. Parting words from each and every single one of you, because I know you are busy, and we're doing this on recording this on a Friday night for those who are watching this at a later date and on TV a little bit later. What's your message to Albertans who are hesitant about signing this petition to keep keep Alberta within a united Canada? Councillor, I'll start with you.
You're not going to get to ignore this one. You know, you don't get to play on the sidelines. This is an important conversation that just needs to be had and put to rest. Kathy is right that it is economically damaging. We have other priorities and other things that we desperately need to take care of, and this is a distraction of the utmost. The possibility of Alberta leaving the province from a legal standpoint, from a treaty standpoint, from all sorts of perspectives, is ludicrous. And right now, this is hurting us. It's hurting investment dollars, and we need to have mature, real conversations about the real issues that are facing municipalities, the province, and this country. I look forward to having those conversations.
Mayor Herron? And actually, can I change the question for you a little bit? Because you
Sure.
originally you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that this is sort of a Quebec referendum light, because you remember that, and we saw what happened where we saw Canada unite and sort of basically go to Quebec during those last days of the October 95 referendum. Do you see Canada uniting behind Alberta, and why is it important for everyone, Albertans, to get involved in this debate at this time?
I mean, I do see the rest of Canada watching and probably cheering on this petition. You know, Mike and I have been fortunate enough to sit on the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Mike's been there a long time, but we get to talk to councillors and mayors from across Canada when we get together. And you know, the last time we were together, I would run into people and I would apologize. I said, we do not want to leave this country. Please do not listen to the news. That is not who we are. And that's not a position I really want to be in. But at the same time, it's starting conversations. I like conversations. But for closing comments, Chris, mayors are super lucky. We get to do a bunch of fun things. And one of my favorite things to do is go to a elementary school when they're hosting a citizenship ceremony. I've gone to plenty of them, and I have a speech that I give every time. I cry every time I go to one of these citizenship ceremonies, because there's a gymnasium full of small children who, for the most part, were born in Canada and don't understand the privilege of that. And then you've got these people in chairs from all over the world. You know, there's a visual gathering of races and religions, and they all fought to get to that day, to get sworn in by a judge to become Canadian. And they didn't come to St. Albert to become Canadian. They came to Canada to become Canadian. They just happened to end up in St. Albert. And you got to be proud of that. And I always say I'm a global citizen first. I'm a Canadian second. I'm an Albertan third, and I'm a St. Albert last. St. Albert residents don't always like that, but it really is true. Like when it comes to climate change and infectious diseases, we are a globe. But when it comes to like you just got to really be proud that I would say St. Albert's the best place in Alberta. Alberta's the best place in Canada, and Canada's the best place in the world. These two might argue with the first statement, but but we should be proud to be Canadian. And this is, for the most part, I think people are echoing what I just said. I'm not hearing a lot of people saying they want to leave.
I will sort of, before I ask Mayor Yargo for final words, I will just mention that I was just recently on a recent road trip through Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and everywhere I stopped and people saw my Alberta license plate, the first thing they asked me, well, one of the first things was, why are you here? And then the second thing was, oh, are you part of that campaign to dissolve Alberta in Canada? So people are talking about outside our borders, even though it might be an apathetic nature here. Across Canada, people are noticing it, even if it is just one-offs, but people are noticing. Mayor, for yourself, final words. Why is it important for people to get involved in, not just take a stance on this issue at the end of the day, whether it be a municipal leader, whether it be your residents of Penhold or residents from across Alberta? Why is it important for them to stand up and voice their opinions on this matter this time?
So it's time for the silent majority to get off the bench. By not acting, by choosing not to act, we've given that right to the smaller minority to act for us. And so often now I see groups claiming to speak for Alberta, claiming to speak for Canada. And it's the minority. It's the vocal minority that's loud, because everyone else is still sitting on the bench. This is something that's not going to go away. It is a distraction. It's being used as a distraction by certain leaders. And it's time to get off the bench. And if getting off the bench means putting your signature on a piece of paper, that's a pretty easy thing to do.
Agree wholeheartedly. I will say that anyone, again, who is listening or watching this at a later date, who is a municipal elected leader and believes that Canada or Alberta should leave Confederation and wants to come on the show and talk about it live on air, we would love to have you on. So feel free to reach out to us. For those who are interested in learning more about the Forever Canada campaign, the links will be in the show notes on the Cross Border Network website and in the show notes on any podcast platforms or on YouTube. Thank you so much, Mayor Yargo, Mayor Heron, and Councillor Graham for doing this. Greatly appreciated. And best of luck in the last few days of the campaign, but also in the coming days of the actual municipal election. And Mayor Heron, thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for representing St. Albert in a great fashion. I appreciate it, our time talking to each other as president of Alberta Municipalities. So thank you, all three of you, for the bottom of my heart, for doing this tonight. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah.
You're welcome.